Looks like everybody's in, John.
Okay. Everybody's here. If you can hear us, I'm going to let John Radigan ask his questions first, and then we'll take questions from the writers.
Hey, Woody. So after the game on Wednesday, Elvis, I'm paraphrasing, but basically said, man, I really think playing in this ballpark is going to make us all better hitters. As a manager, first the recognition of that, but then sort of second said it, and he's probably saying it to his teammates. I mean, that's just got to make you feel great to hear that type of comment coming from somebody like Elvis.
Yeah, and it's, we obviously look at a lot of things pretty deep, psychologically speaking. And I've said that ever since I saw the ballpark. I was like, this ballpark might be a blessing, how big it is. And I know I don't want a ballpark that, you can't hit a home run. We obviously have one of the most prolific home run hitters. So I want to make sure it's not too big. But at the same time, our old ballpark, psychologically speaking, when you come home to that ballpark and you can just pop a ball up to right field and it goes out, there's something to be said like for your approach, but when you have to earn everything and you have to, be kind of scrappy and scratch and claw to get on base and, work the middle of the field, you will still hit homers. Miguel Cabrera has made a living, a Triple Crown winner in a huge ballpark, right? And his whole mentality is hit the ball to right center, as a right-handed hitter. That's why this guy is so good. So anytime they hang him a breaking ball, he launches it to left, or, he sticks to the middle of the field. And we've been obviously preaching that to our guys, but it's hard to preach that to your guys when if they pop a ball up to right field, it's a homer. Now it's not. So I think that's going to help us in the long run. And then also with 2 strikes, or even before 2 strikes in big situations, keeping the ball low to the middle of the field, or if you just miss it, if you hit it just right, it'll go out. But instead of having a pop-up or deep fly ball, you may find some gaps. And like you saw us doing that 8th inning, we love to push, from a base running standpoint. We love going first to third. We love stealing bases when you give them to us. Like, that's part of what makes us a good team and a resilient team. But, if we're just missing fly balls, we never get the opportunity to do that. So I think in the long run, it will make us better hitters. And I'm glad our players are starting to recognize that, especially one of our best players.
Sure. And you may need those same type of skills. You're familiar with this ballpark where you're playing tonight. Ball doesn't fly out of that place, does it?
Oh, and it's like you look at what we're playing for the next little while. And almost every team in the West, NL and AL, I spent a lot of time in the NL West, just as much as in the AL West. And, there's not too many hitter ballparks, Colorado being one. Maybe the Dodgers at times, the ball kind of flies out of there, Houston maybe. But other than that, Diamondbacks place, we only go there a couple games. So it's all the parks we play right now, San Fran, Oakland, we go back home, they're all pretty much pitcher-friendly ballparks. So I think it's going to help us as an offense to not try to get greedy, not try to do too much, and just stick to our plan and our approach.
I know it's only 5 games, but the starter's ERA is significantly under 1 at this point. You're sending Mike Minor to the mound, and heck, he may lower it today.
Yeah, no, it's a comforting feeling, and we knew that was going to be our strength. Obviously, we lost one of the best ones in Corey Kluber, but we obviously have Colby Allard, who we trust, to kind of fulfill that role, and we have other guys that are hungry as well in the bullpen. So, I like where our pitching's at. Our players love it. Like, they feel like they can count on us to put a bunch of zeros up. And like I said, once our offense kind of understands some things and we stick to our approach, we'll be in shape to win a lot of games.
All right, great. Thanks, Woody.
Okay, questions. Raise your hands, please. Let's go to TR.
Ms. Woodward, what is your plan for the 9th inning and the closer's role, please, sir?
Yeah, obviously with Jose down, there's a big void there. Right now, it's, I hate to use the word closer by committee, but it's, we're going to do the best we can based on, experience, how guys are throwing, and then obviously how well they match up with that part of the lineup. And, typically, that's what we do anyways. I'm looking at matchups, as soon as Mike kind of gets through first or second inning, I kind of see how he's pitching and where I can kind of see, okay, this is where the lineup's most likely going to be in the 5th or 6th inning, who matches up well there. And then, we work our way back from the 9th inning, I guess, on. It doesn't, the one thing I told this group from day one was there are no roles right now. We don't have the luxury of just saying, okay, we're going to put you in that role. I trust, obviously, guys with experience. You look at Volquez, Jonathan Hernandez with his stuff, kind of come to mind. Those two guys, could maybe take on that role. I have no problem putting Jabot, Farrell is a great matchup for these guys. There's certain guys, Chavi with his experience, we can go any way we want, just as long as obviously we feel like the experience, the way they're pitching, and the way they match up all kind of matches up together.
You didn't mention Goody, and he got the save on Sunday. How viable of an option is he in that
Absolutely.
role?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think any of those guys, I trust all those guys. Brett Martin, if it's, a couple lefties, even Joe Palumbo, the way he kind of threw the ball a couple days. Yeah, Goody was a perfect matchup. I had that kind of 7, 8, 9 for Goody the whole game. And it just happened to, Leclerc had to, had his issue. And so we had to go with somebody else. I'm like, oh, perfect. I already had it labeled. Hey, that's a perfect spot for Goody. And see how easy he made that look. And those are the last 3 outs of a game, which are usually the toughest. So, if we do it right, we can get pretty creative with this, and our players are on board. They all are actually really excited about it, because some of these guys are going to be pitching in situations they never, haven't in the past. And we're going to learn a lot about our guys. Maybe a guy fails. We can talk to them about it, see how they're feeling, what they're thinking. I think no fans in the crowd helps a lot of these younger pitchers, because they don't have to deal with the San Francisco crowd that tends to get kind of, the Oakland crowd that gets pretty rowdy. They're not going to have to deal with that. So I think that'll help them in the long run.
Next question, please, Jeff.
Hey, Chris, you talked about how the hitters feel about the ballpark. I'm sure the pitchers are loving it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get any complaints from our pitchers about how our ballpark plays. Yeah. I mean, it's, no cheap homers, no cheap hits. We obviously, I think there may be some more bloopers that fall in at times, just because our outfielders are going to have to play a little deeper. But overall, I mean, the field it's fair. I mean, I think at best it's fair. To center, it's a little big, but to the lines, it's pretty hitter friendly. If you hit it down the lines or dead right, dead left, it's going to be a homer if you hit it right. So our pitchers love it. It's controlled environment. The weather's good. They're not having to deal with 100-degree heat. They make you saw in the first series with Story and Arenado, just missed a few balls that got caught at the warning track. So, yeah, I mean, there's no complaints by our pitchers at all.
But they still have to make pitches. You can't just go out there for batting practice.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I think in the past where, if you pitch in Colorado or even our old ballpark was one of the hitters' ballparks, you make a decent pitch and it ends up in the upper deck up there. You're like, oh, it must have been a bad pitch. And then you go back and look at the exit below and everything. You're like, wow, that actually maybe wasn't a homer in some ballparks. It's kind of like in New York, like you pitch in the Yankee Stadium, a pop up to right, you're holding your breath. Pop up to right here, you're like, that's an out. There's no question it's an out. You know what I mean? Or I guess at our ballpark, maybe here because it's only 309. But it's relieving, I think, on the pitchers. If they make pitches and get them off the barrel a little bit, they're gonna get guys out.
All right, thanks.
Next question, please. Let's go to Levi.
As far as making the roster spot for Greg Burns, might be more of a John Daniels question, but I'm talking to you. What was the thinking on Parado? Was he still dealing with any stuff from spring?
No, he actually looked. I saw him throw an inter-squad game yesterday, and he actually looked pretty good. No, I think it was just more of a spot. We felt like we had to get the spot. Getting Bird over Guzman obviously was probably the bigger question. Guzzi's been working on a lot of this. He's just not being able to get the at bats that I feel like he needs to actually put some of this work into action. So I think on the if he can send him over to the other side, he can get a ton of at bats, get a bunch of reps, maybe put that work into action. And Birdie's been swinging the bat good. I know on the other side last week with us, he was swinging the bat better. So I felt like it was kind of a win-win for both guys. And Guzzi is obviously not wanting to go down, but I think in the long run it'll help him more to get more at bats and more reps.
Right on. Thank you.
Next question to Chris.
Hey, Woody. I kind of asked John Daniels about this yesterday, and I'm curious of, two pitchers both having the same exact, or nearly the same exact injury within a week. Does that concern you at all about how quickly pitchers had to get ready for the season? I know that they were, throwing during the shutdown, but, just something like this, it's kind of an anomaly usually. So How does that? How are you going to manage your pitchers going forward in terms of their workload?
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of people in baseball that are asking themselves the same thing. We knew that there was going to be issues, with the quick ramp up, with not facing other teams. I think it's a combination of both of those. And listen, I mean, we've stressed from day one with our guys, like the intensity in that inter squad situation was going to have to. We had to get it higher, because the second you see a different jersey on the other team, you tend to throw a little harder or reach back a little bit more. So it is concerning. I think it's something that we've internally discussed often, especially since Pico's or Leclerc's went his injury. I think it's really important that we keep an open mind and we keep looking for solutions and answers, kind of moving forward to try to prevent this from happening again. Some of this may be out of our hands, though. It's like, we only had a certain amount of time. I have to pitch a guy for 3 batters. Starting pitchers, we can decrease their pitch count, but other guys we can't. Like, we have to throw them for 3 batters. So there's a lot of question marks there in how we're going to go about this. Maybe giving guys more time off, more rest, maybe doing some preventative measures with their arms. Our trainers have already talked about a lot of that stuff. So we're just trying to stay proactive and trying to prevent this thing from happening again with anybody else.
Just to clarify, with your starting pitchers, do you plan on putting like an absolute pitch count on them for sure?
I think it depends. Obviously I'm going to talk to Julio and our pitchers about that, and just to continually see how they're feeling, how their body's feeling. Are they doing some of the things the trainers are talking about, with that shoulder, and it may be other injuries as well. I mean, we figured there would be some soft tissue injuries this year. The good thing is Leclerc and Kluber will have full, they'll be 100% healthy when they recover. It wasn't like a capsule or, anything, no elbow ligament or anything like that, but it was just muscular. We figured we would have injuries like that on the position player side as well. But we're just trying to. I don't know if it means I'm not going to limit a guy to 70 pitches if he's fully ready to go 100. But we just got to keep a close eye on our guys and keep communicating with them.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Take a few more, Sam.
Just curious, what you think of potentially having a 7-inning games, Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I'm kind of. I don't know how to feel now. I think I was listening to Tom Verducci, and he wasn't a big fan of it. I'm kind of in the same. It doesn't feel like Major League Baseball to me, but I totally understand why they're doing it. And I wouldn't recommend after this year doing it, but I think for this year, it makes a ton of sense. Just looking through, some of the injuries and trying to prevent, especially when there's going to be positive tests, you're going to have to miss a couple of days. You're going to have doubleheaders to make it up, maybe back-to-back doubleheaders. You could run the risk if you had 9-inning games of really potentially stretching some teams thin. And, I think it's the best thing we can do and just to help our pitchers out.
And going off that a little bit, I know you talked about this topic, I guess probably a couple of days ago, but just, the rule change is happening on the fly, a lot of games being canceled. I think 20% of the teams aren't even playing today because of COVID. I mean, how do you kind of feel about just what's kind of going on and how you manage through that?
Yeah, it's obviously we're all kind of glued to our phones and TVs just to see what the latest is. I don't like reading that there's new cases, and as long as we keep them to a minimum, if it's just 1 or 2 guys or just one player and stat whatever, I think we can manage it. But when we start looking at if there's 3 or 4 guys on a team or 5 or 6 guys, now we're running the risk of shutting the league down. So we're paying attention to everything. We're trying to obviously make sure internally we're taking care of all the protocols and making sure our players and staff are adhering to those protocols. It's critical to keep this thing running. And, but there's not, some of this is out of our hands. And if 3, 4 or 5 other teams have an outbreak, don't see how we can continue playing. And we don't want that. We want to keep playing.
Time for one more, Rick.
Yeah, Woody, and playing off of that, obviously you heard about the Brewers and Cardinals getting canceled today, the Brewers home opener. You guys have done a better job at keeping guys healthy than most of the teams out there. But do you think the testing can actually keep up with the games?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's enough. The testing has been pretty good. I mean, initially it was a little bit slow and tedious, but now we're all it's a new norm, right? This is our first road trip, and today was the first day, and everybody kind of just dealt with it. I mean, the schedule was different. We had things at the hotel. I think it's fine, honestly. But like I said, it's just, you just don't know, man. Like, you get on the road or you get it back at your home ballpark, you let your guard down for a minute, and that's all it takes. And we're just trying to do the best we can to prevent that. And hopefully other teams, stay safe as well. And hopefully we can keep this thing going for the whole year.